Tantra is not focused on the experience of sex. Rather, it is focused on what corrupts this experience. The usage of erotic imagery in the Tantric literature and in the ancient temples of Sanatana Dharma is not for indulgence or excitement. Rather, it is an invitation for genuine seekers to reconsider and re-examine their views about the sexual dimension of life. This video is dedicated to understanding the deeper interpretation behind why Tantra and Sanatana Dharma in general is so liberal in the usage of erotic imagery, erotic themes. So make sure you watch this video till the end so that you can learn about this important dimension of life. Now, to support my presentation in this video, I'll be making use of a very unique teaching from a very unexpected source, the world teacher and master Sri J. Krishnamurti. I've been greatly impacted by his teachings. You might wonder, what is it that this master has in common with the Tantric tradition or with sex and intimacy in general, because he's generally viewed as a very intellectual master who dismisses all these dimensions of life. But this teaching is very profound. The master speaks beautifully about the apt role of love, sex, desire, etc. in life. So I choose to read his teachings verbatim, and based on that, I'll build up my presentation. And this will help you understand even the Tantric tradition from where it comes. So let me go into his teaching now. So the master says, there is the seeing of a house, the sensation that it is lovely. Then there is the desire to own it and to have pleasure from it. Then there is the effort to get it. All this constitutes the center. And this center is the cause of division. This center is the feeling of a me, which is the cause of division, because this very feeling of me is the feeling of separation. People have called this ego and all kinds of other names. So let me dwell a little on this very profound teaching, because this completely lays out the sequence that the Tantric discipline follows. So there is the seeing. So Tantra does not dismiss sensory experiences. It does not treat it as an interference to meditation. It treats it as part and parcel of life. So when your senses come in contact with reality, the first response is there is sensation. Okay. Now we must contrast this with what the Advaitic Upanishadic tradition will talk, because in the Advaitic tradition, the arising of sensation itself is an interference. Even Maharishi Patanjali's yoga tradition would call that an interference. It would consider that a chitta vritti, and chitta vritti nirodha, that should not arise. Okay, so basically they are approaching it from another angle, where if you are in a state of samadhi, there is not even that sensation. But Tantra is not like that. That is where the Tantric discipline varies. According to Tantra, the sensation is part of what Tantra calls the Adya Spanda, the primordial vibration. So the coming together of Shiva and Shakti, the coming together of pure awareness, pure luminous awareness, and its creative aspect as primordial love, the coming together of these two aspects does create a ripple. And it is that ripple which manifests, which expands into all creation, into all life forms. So the sensation you're feeling today, when you hear very divine music and your whole body vibrates, or you have tears streaming down your eyes, or when you touch a piece of silk fabric and the sensation feels very nice, the body responds to it, or you eat something very tasty, very aromatic, and if you're truly present to that experience, the whole body feels it. You can't just stop with a simple word, oh, it's very nice. That is actually a useless description of a very rich experience. If your senses are really alive, if the mind is not noisy and active in a moment of a sensory experience, there is that pure vibration passing through your body. It moves through your body like ripples, and Tantra deems that very sacred. So the master says there is the seeing, and then there is the sensation arising from it. So the dimension of sensation in the Tantric discipline is still very divine and sacred. Unfortunately, most modern day human beings never really stay in this dimension. They quickly go on to the next stage. So there is the seeing, there is the sensation, and most people don't give themselves time to stay in this space. They quickly go on to the next stage, which the master says there is the desire to own it and to have pleasure from it. So when you hear music and those sensations are running through your body, most people don't allow themselves to stay in that sacred space. See, remember, that space of sensation is very sacred because in that moment, you, the ego self, is not present. You are not creating that sensation. It is very spontaneous. That is why it is part of the Adya Spanda. See, let us understand, this is why Adi Shankaracharya beautifully uses terminologies like Saundarya, Lahari, Shivananda, Lahari. What is Lahari? Waves of bliss, waves of blissful sensation flowing through the body. So when he is singing about the Divine Mother, and many ill-informed people are questioning the choices of the great Acharya's words, why would he, describe whom he considers his mother like that? Describe her bosom and describe her waist and describe her neck, and why would he go into such intimate descriptions? Because that is the nature of pure sensation. Because most people, for them, modern day human beings with hypersexual minds, this has become terra incognito. They don't even dwell in that space for a moment because they quickly graduate to the next level. The desire to own it or the desire to, get pleasure out of it, they never stay in that space of pure sensation for long. That is why these questions are arising. People don't know it. Often if you stay in that space of sensation, it makes you quiet. It is wordless. And it takes actually a lot of training. It needs to be a very, very evolved mind, which is so overcome with that sensation that sensation bursts out of the mouth as profound poetic description, because one word like it is nice is not enough to encapsulate the richness of that sensation. This is why all of these saintly poets who have had a profound divine experience, they burst out into poetry. Kalidasa's first description of the Divine Mother, when she blesses him with poetic skills, is in some sense very erotic. It describes her, her fingers. He sees the Divine Mother, Kali or Matangi, as being of greenish hue. And he comes up with such beautiful descriptions, like her fingers with pointy nails. They are like newly erupted shoots of Durva grass. Greenish in color, the newly erupted shoots of Durva grass, they tend to be a very beautiful greenish, bluish in color. And the tips often tend to have a pinkish hue. Look at Kalidasa's description. The Divine Mother's fingers are like that. Newly erupted shoots of Durva grass, greenish in color, with slight pinkish tips. Her nails are like that. That is the power of that pure sensation. Anyone who stays there long enough, without slipping into that next stage of wanting to derive pleasure out of it, if they stayed in that space of only pure sensation, Lahari happens, divine waves of inspiration happens. It bursts out of the mouth either as poetry or maybe in some cases dance. As a learner of music and dance, I often wonder that Bharata Muni, he would have come up with all these profound mudras and all these. Basically watching Bhagwan Shiva dance so beautifully, he would have remained in that space of pure sensation, and his whole body is vibrating like a finely tuned musical instrument. And from that, the hand moves into all those beautiful mudras, the eyes and the movement of the neck and the face and all those very subtle movements. It is only possible in that space. If the mind had entered, if the calculating, thinking mind had entered into that space, such subtlety would not be possible. So people who are ridiculing at Sanatana Dharma, at the Puranas, at the use of erotic imagery, they must know that actually it takes a lot of training for a mind to remain in that space, without losing focus. And it takes a lot of training for a mind to remain in that space of pure sensation, but not remain silent. You become so soaked in that feeling. Think of it like a dry cloth thrown into a bucket of water. Initially, the wetness slowly spreads through the cloth, and as the cloth soaks up the wetness, it slowly sinks into it. Think of human mind like that. The mind is dry, without rasa, rasahina. Because of all its self-centric indulgences, the mind has become dry. And then perhaps due to some divine compassion, there is an opening, there is a moment of divine inspiration, and pure love, primordial love, like you've never tasted it, primordial intelligence and bliss floods your being. And this dry cloth of your body and your mind soaks into that. It initially becomes silent, but after having soaked in it long enough, it bursts out into irrepressible poetry. So do not mock at the erotic themes that come in tantric poetry. It is very, very profound. So, like the Master Sri J. Krishnamurti says, there is the seeing and then there is the pleasant sensation coming from it. That sensation is like a finely tuned instrument. You know, if you tune a tanpura or a veena very finely, if you strike one string, another string which is of a similar frequency will start vibrating. If it's tuned so finely. I play the veena, so I notice this quite often. So that is the level of sensitivity that Tantra is trying to cultivate, is trying to awaken within us. The usage of all the bija mantras, the vibrations, the usage of all the breath related kriyas, the meditations, the visualizations is to sensitize this body to that extent where you can tune into that primordial vibration, because that primordial vibration is Shivananda Lahari, Lord Shiva's bliss. In fact, the jutting out of Ganga from his head is symbolic of that. So much is his bliss. His body is vibrating with so much bliss that it doesn't stay contained in him. It juts out as a whole stream of, life-giving water. Tantra is trying to familiarize every human being with that level of bliss, with that level of divine vibration. Now, as long as one remains in the realm of sensation, think of it like the threshold. There is the seeing, there is the pure experience. Now, the Advaitic and the Yogic tradition would like to only be there. They don't even want to come to the level of sensation. For them, even sensation is a next stage. But for Tantra, it is not. The first two stages are still equally sacred. You can think of the pure seeing as Shiva. You can think of the arising of the sensation as the coming together of Shiva with Shakti and the blissful emanation happening. Now, until here, it is still very sacred. The limited mind, the cunning, calculative mind, or rather the self, the sense of me, I, has not yet emerged. The next time you have a very profound experience, the next time you see a beautiful sunset or you listen to very divine music, take a moment to actually reflect. Try to catch yourself feeling that pure, unadulterated sensation. That is not your making. You did not imagine it. Your mind did not just throw up something. No, it is natural, which is why it is spontaneous, it is natural, it is divinely ordained. So for Tantra, until this realm of sensation, it is still very divine. There is nothing ugly about this. Now, the sexual act, the sexual process, as Tantra envisions it, is supposed to remain at this level. It is not supposed to graduate to the, I won't use the word graduate, it is not supposed to digress or devolve or degenerate into the next level where the desire to own it and derive pleasure from it enters. That is where the limited self arises. That is where the devil has entered the picture. It is from that stage onward that the sacred experience has become distorted. Now, this is a very, very subtle transition. Unless you're trained into a lot of meditation and you're trained to watch the minute unfoldment of the self, you will not catch yourself here. You will quickly, the moment life puts you in that kind of a situation where there is some kind of a sexual experience about to happen, the mind will quickly, it will probably bypass the sensation phase. It will quickly go into the third phase where there is the desire to own it. It is mine, it is me, I am going through this experience. This is very unfortunate. In today's world, it has become a very rehearsed act, which is all about performance, which is all about display, which is all about showing off. Tantra has nothing to do with all of that. And the irony is that people who don't understand the subtlety, they choose to license all this egoic ways, this possessive act in the sexual process as sacred sex, as tantric sex. It is so laughable. Tantra has nothing to do with all this. This is all the cunning, calculative mind just glorifying itself. So the master says, I would like to read Sri J. Krishnamurti's teaching again. There is the desire to own it and to have pleasure from it, and then there is the effort to get it. So let us say you walk into a shop and you see a beautiful dress hanging on the the window, the display window. There is sensation. You look at the flow of the dress, the shape of it, the color of it. There is sensation. The body, like a finely tuned instrument, immediately responds. Now, if you stayed there, if you just stayed with the sensation, it is actually a beautiful experience. The problem is, it quickly degenerates to the next level. Oh, I need to have this. There is the imagination of how I will look in that dress. Now, that is where the I has come. Okay, there is the mental projection of I'm seeing myself walk into a party in that dress. Oh, I will look so smart and I will look so nice. And then there is the desire to own it, to purchase it. Tantra has nothing to do with all that. So stages 1 and 2, the seeing and the sensation, this is all Tantra is concerned with, because this is very refined. This is being very sensitive. If you watched my earlier videos on this Tantra series, I mentioned how the primary focus of Tantra is to sensitize us to the experience of life. To not remain like a dry cloth, but rather to remain like a cloth that is soaked in water, soaked in the water of divine bliss. So stages 1 and 2 do that, the seeing and the sensation, the body becoming sensitized. But stages 3 and 4, the desire to derive pleasure from it, that is often what causes continuity. So many people, for them, it is not enough that they have an experience of sex. There is the desire to continue it in future. The mind is not satisfied with having one pleasurable moment. It wants guarantee that this pleasure will exist in future as well. They want continued access to that realm of pleasure, and therefore there is the desire, because there is the desire to have continued access, there is the repetition of that thought. There is continued indulgence. Tantra has nothing to do with all this. And I would like to read another beautiful line of the Master J. Krishnamurti. Thinking about the sexual act becomes lust, which is entirely different from the act of sex. What most people are concerned with is the passion of lust. Craving before and after sex is lust. This craving is thought, and thought is not love. Do you see what the Master is pointing at? That the very act, the very sensation, sexual sensation, which is what Tantra is focused on, it is like a twilight realm. If you manage to just stay there without the desire to own it, to possess it, to have it continually in the future, that act remains an immortal moment in time. It arises, it leaves. Just like there are tides in the ocean which you don't really time or which you don't really sequence. They arise spontaneously, they go. These waves of inspiration, this happens for all experiences. Let us not just limit it to sex. Feeling joyful, eating very tasty food and feeling it in your whole body. Those sensations arise. There is no desire to grasp onto the sensations, to ensure that these sensations continue in the future. Oh, let me learn the recipe so that I can make this for myself regularly and I can have continued experience of this tasty food. None of those calculative thought processes exist. But unfortunately, this is not the reality where human beings are. There is craving before, there is the anticipation of the sexual act, and there is craving after. There is the desire to revisit it again. There is the rumination over it. Do you think Tantra is concerned with this? Not at all. So, all the usage of erotic imagery in our temples, it is not to excite, it is not to give people a reason to crave and anticipate before the act, nor is it a reason for them to ruminate and revisit after the act. Which is why I say all these imageries, all these themes repeatedly occurring in our sacred literature is not meant to excite. Rather, it is meant to shock the mind, which is addicted which is indulgent, and which has lost touch with the sacred dimension of sensation, of pure feeling. People don't know what it is to be in that sacred dimension of feeling. They only know a dimension where that feeling is always wrapped in thought, to own it, to possess it, to continue it, to make it permanent, to make it long lasting. Tantra is not concerned with any of this. So, tantric sex, I dislike using that word, because sex in itself, if it is without the interference of possessive thought, which wants to possess and control, sex in itself is tantric in the sense that it is divinely ordained. It is a continuation, it is an extension of that primordial vibration of Shiva and Shakti coming together, which is manifesting through all our bodies and through our being. So that is actually a sacred dimension. It is an opportunity for us to, taste a very sacred essence in us that is free of the limitation of I, me and myself. See, this is one of the reasons why the human mind is addicted to sexual activity, because even though people are clouded with the possessive thought, the desire to get something out of it, or the desire to prove something about themselves, somewhere deep down, unbeknownst to them, very subconsciously, the body and the mind are tasting unconditional bliss that is expansive, that feels timeless, that feels ageless. So it is a tiny window to glimpse something that the mind has never known before, which is beyond all memory, which is beyond all the fabrications of the mind. So somewhere people are feeling it. It is a deep imprint in our consciousness. And when people are addicted, when they're trying to chase that experience, they are actually, through all the external motions of that experience, which is superficial and made up by the body and mind, deep down, their consciousness is longing for that moment where time stands still, where the feeling, the limited impressions of birth and death, of sorrow and pleasure, all of this are absent. But people don't know it. They are not conscious of that. Now, the purpose of me making this video is to help you become conscious of that. You are actually having such an experience, not just in a moment of sexual activity, with any experience. The next time you have very tasty food, or you listen to very nice music, or you see a very beautiful sunset, remember this teaching and just pay attention to the sensations that arise in you. And you will notice those sensations are so innocent. They are not corrupted. There is nothing the body is trying to get out of it. There is no ownership, there is no possession, there is no running after something. There is no calculation or future imagination of I want this and how do I ensure this continues forever. No such things exist. It is just an immortal moment in time. But very soon, that divine realm of sensation is quickly overshadowed by this devilish mind. Like Adi Shankaracharya sings in Dakshinamurti Shlokam, Rahu grasta divakarendu sadrisham. This realm of sensation within us is like the bright sun or the moon. And this possessive mind, this calculative mind, which wants to prolong that sensation, which is insecure of losing that blissful moment. This is like Rahu, the eclipse energy, casting a shadow on that beautiful moment. So Tantra is about helping us break free of the third and the fourth levels, which is about possession and which is about ownership. It is breaking us free of that, and it is keeping us in that sacred realm where there is just the experience and there is the sensation. And if you manage to stay in that space of pure inspiration with no desire to own it, you are not the creator of the sensation. You're actually very humbled. You're very disarmed. There is no grasping on, there is no pulling to it. You just see it as, it's a wave of divine inspiration flooding your body. Shivananda Lahari, Saundarya Lahari. That is what Adi Shankaracharya has chosen the most beautiful names. So he fully understands that those beautiful descriptions of the Divine Mother, when the mind is free of its need to hold on to something or derive pleasure out of it or something, all these beautiful descriptions of her body and the curves in her body, they are innocent, they are divine. Because such is the immensity of that experience, such is the immensity of the divine vision, that it is not enough if you just come up with words like, oh, she looked so beautiful. No, you describe part by part, curve by curve, and it still doesn't feel enough. One might never know the sanctity of these experiences unless they actually have a moment of such descriptions. So it is very, very sacred. And that experience of staying in pure sensation is what is known as Shringara Rasa. Those of us who are familiar with dance, let us know that Shringara Rasa is not to be just reduced to eroticism or love or passion. No, I think we are short of words to describe what it is. It is described as one of the most important rasas. Shringara is this refined sensation, very refined, very subtle. You can't put a finger on it. But even though it is so refined, like a gentle waft of fresh air, a breeze, that is how it is. It is very gentle, but yet it is very overpowering. It doesn't go unnoticed. It fills you, it vibrates you, it shakes you up, it disarms you, it makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it makes you do everything. But keeps you in a very innocent, pure space with no desire to own. It's like, it's very tender. It's like you're looking at a very soft flower and you're worried that by even touching it, it might wilt. That is how divine these sensations are. There is no one to own it. There is no one to cling on to it. So that is the understanding of the usage of erotic imagery in Tantra. Those images are supposed to inspire those sensations in you so that you have an opportunity to recognize Shringara Rasa, those very refined sensations in you, which the mind cannot machinate, it cannot fabricate with all its hasty and possessive ways. It needs a very quiet mind. Think of it like the still surface of a lake and a gentle breeze causing ripples. You might never manage to create such soft ripples on the surface of water by putting your hand into it. Because this hand is too solid and you put your hand into it, the whole surface will shake, you will distort the whole thing. Shringara Rasa is like that. It's very, very subtle, very, very beautiful, very refined. It's like the finest perfume wafting through air. And you can't help but notice it. You can't help but allow it to flow through you. And the purpose of Tantric Sadhana, all the japa and all the repetition of the bija mantras, the very potent sounds, is to make your body like a very finely tuned harp or a finely tuned veena or tanpura, that even the slightest wind will actually vibrate the strings and you hear the gentle music of it. So that is what sex in Tantra is all about. I hope this has clarified some of your perceptions. If you've had questions about why the Sanatana Dharma tradition resorts to erotic imagery and why the Tantric discipline in particular goes into all of this, I hope I have answered your questions. And like I said, the next time you have a sensory experience, kindly take some time to become quiet and notice that subtle sensation. It takes a very quiet mind to even notice it. And like I said, quite often the mind jumps to the next stage of wanting to possess it. Even before you feel the sensation fully, the mind is already, it has taken the express train into the future, trying to possess it, trying to own it, trying to imagine how I will look with it. All that is nonsense. That is the Rahuvian devil eclipsing the beautiful moon, the full moon of your mind, which is all about pure sensation. So if you found this video helpful, if you found this insightful, kindly like this video, kindly subscribe to my channel, and you can also follow me on Instagram, Shuddhavidya, and I'll be coming up with more such videos to support your spiritual well-being. Thank you. Namaste.